All right, guys, welcome to the Digital Barbell Podcast. Thank you for being here. If you are new to our podcast, maybe this is your first time tuning in or watching on YouTube, welcome. I'm Jonathan. This is my current wife, Blakely.
Hilarious.
Love that joke. I was thinking about this a minute ago. We're almost to our 22nd anniversary. So not only are you my current wife, you are my longest lasting wife.
That is not a good joke. That's not a good joke.
If you're, like I said, if you're new around here, we put out 2 podcasts every single week. We're on all the socials. We run Digital Barbell. We are the co-owners. The goal of Digital Barbell is to help regular people get in irregularly amazing shape with common sense training and nutrition. Most of our business is working one-on-one with people on custom training programs, actually coaching them, helping them make progress, making the time they spend in the gym count. Speaking of coaching people, if you're listening to this in January of 2024, it's not too late to come and get trained by us, coached by us for a week for free. digitalbarbell.com/free week. We'll get you set up in the app that we coach all of our clients in. We're going to coach you just like we do our clients for a week. No catch, no strings, no nothing like that. So go take advantage of that.
Yeah, the reason we're doing that is some people just don't know what it's like to be coached through the online environment. So it gives you a chance to just get a taste of that and see what it's like.
Yeah, if you've ever done like an app-based training program and you really just like open the app and you have a list of things to do and that's kind of it, you're on your own. We want to show you that it doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to be there scratching your head like, well, what is this exercise? I better Google it or look it up on YouTube. And how hard should I be pushing? Am I doing it right?
I sampled a program recently just to see. I won't name drop any names, but I opened it and I'm like, okay. And it was just a list of like exercises and it'd be like 5 by 10. And there was no demos. I had to Google like, well, what is that? You know. Yeah, anyway, it's not like that.
It's weird. If you hear a noise in the background, that is our dog Lacey chewing on a bone. I mentioned earlier about being on YouTube. All these podcasts, these Thursday podcasts, are on our YouTube channel. This is going to be a special podcast.
As you see, there's a cutting board and a knife already laid out.
If you're only listening to this on the audio version, we're going to do our best to like paint the visual picture of what's going on here. But this is going to be by far our most interactive podcast we've ever done. So if you have a minute to jump over to YouTube and check it out, you could just get used to listening to podcasts on YouTube. You don't have to sit there and watch the whole thing.
That's how we do them. I just like it because every once in a while you can like glance over and see like what they're doing and
it's funny, a lot of
even
people
if it's just people talking, it's like you see their facial expressions and stuff. I like it. I prefer it personally.
Yeah. So if you've never tried it, give it a try. We also put out a video on our YouTube channel earlier this week, kind of showing the quote remodel of our office.
Yes. It's much better in here.
She did a really good job editing that. That was a fun video. So go check that out. Today we're going to be giving you kind of a combination of tips, information, just things that we find useful with food, with nutrition, and some things that you might not know. Kitchen. Some things you might not know about food and like how to cook certain things. So this is why it's going to be a really interactive episode.
It's like the Today Show in here. It feels like, like they have like the cooking segment.
Yeah.
You're like, you're not in a kitchen right now.
Hoda?
I did wash my hands, so I'm ready.
But before we get into the episode, we have to give credit to our sponsor.
Oh, okay.
We have a repeat sponsor from way back in the day, like maybe 2020. We're sponsored today by Celestial Seasonings Bengal Spice Tea.
Good one.
I got one right here.
It smells like it in here.
Let me just give you a warning, though. If you make tea and you put it in one of these Yeti type things,
you might not drink that for a few hours.
Yeah, it's gonna be hot for a long time.
You're gonna burn your mouth.
So it's like it was 9 degrees.
It was 9 degrees here today. This is Austin, Texas, practically. Like it doesn't get 9 degrees here.
So like we're crushing. We're crushing tea.
It's crazy.
If you've never had Bengal spice tea, though, it's delicious. It's like cinnamon, clove, flavor explosion. Yeah. Pro tip, though, if you have anything other than a tiny little coffee mug, use 2 bags of it. Mm-hmm. If you can afford the cash flow to be able to double down on your tea, it's going to taste a lot better. And you can probably even like put a little more water in there and drink more of it if you put 2 bags in there. Okay, thanks.
All right, enough about Seasonings. Your tea. Let's go. I'm ready. We got a lot of food over here.
All right, first thing we want to tell you about is bell pepper. Ooh. And specifically, we're talking about the colors of bell pepper, other than, I feel like I said that word, bell pepper.
Other than green.
Other than green. Don't even mess with that green garbage. Not only do they taste terrible, but they're much lower in nutrients than the more colorful ones. Our favorites are the orange and the yellow. We also eat the red, but we find the red ones are a little bit tougher. Like the skin is a little bit tougher.
We buy the trio pack from the grocery store.
Yeah.
It's like more affordable than buying them separately.
It's $3.50.
It's like you get one of each. So you get a red, a yellow, and an orange.
Yes. But did you know that, okay, well, let me ask you this. What comes to mind when you think of foods that are high in vitamin C?
Oranges.
Oranges, yeah. You got to drink your orange juice or eat an orange. No, bell peppers have more vitamin C, specifically the yellow and orange ones, than oranges.
Wow.
So eat your bell peppers. Not only do they have a really good texture, really good taste, but they are high in vitamin C. And we're going to show you, Blakely's going to show you.
I think I have a hack for slicing this. I've never, like, John, yeah.
I mean, before I met you, the 22 years ago,
You just
I would cut
hack into it like this.
No, I would stand it up on its end and I would cut through it vertically, right down the middle, and the seeds would go everywhere.
Just go everywhere.
So Blakely,
this is my hack for not getting the seeds everywhere.
Okay, so
and I've already washed this and
she's
it's ready to go.
setting the bell pepper down on its butt, and she's coming at it from
and I'm
the
just
top,
gonna cut off the sides,
going down the side, staying
and like kind of do like a curve. Once you get one side off, you can like curve around and go all the way to the butt. Like, curve around and go all the way to the butt. And you can a lot of times you can miss all that white veiny stuff that you really don't want to eat anyway. Curve around, come into the butt.
It'd be funny if you cut your finger.
Literally, there's no seeds fell.
No seeds.
And you're just left with, like, Jonathan will usually eat that end, and then that's what you throw away.
Right.
So really no waste, but no seeds got up, and then you can chop them however you want from there. You know, I'm pretty hungry, so.
Yeah, we want to hear you chewing on the mic. Last week with the noisy jacket, this week she's chewing on the microphone. So yeah, I like that technique. I don't like messing with the seeds. I was skeptical when you approached me with this revolutionary technique, but it turns out that it works and you're not crazy. So set those aside. We'll have those for lunch. Yeah. Okay, so eat your bell peppers and cut them like that if you don't want to mess with the seeds. Second one we're going to talk about is potatoes. We are eating potatoes like they're going out of style right now, and we don't even live in Idaho anymore, but we are eating Idaho potatoes.
We've been specifically eating these little ones. Like they come in a
Yukon
They
Gold
come in a mesh bag, and you get like 20 to 25 of these little potatoes.
Yeah, it's 1 pound.
And we have been cutting them up, popping them in the air fryer, and eating on them for like 2 days, and then making another batch. And just the other day, I remarked to Jonathan, I ate some for lunch. Like right now, my current lunch is like, I'll do a big protein shake. I call it like a heavy protein shake because I have this protein powder that's like, I think like 30 grams of protein. It's like a bulk. It's supposed to be like a meal replacement. It's like a bulked up one. And I'll just do a big bowl of vegetables. Like I'll do a full bell pepper, a half of an avocado, a cucumber, a bunch of these potatoes, and sometimes an apple in that bowl, and just like eat that with the protein shake. It is amazing.
All right.
I mean, I love it.
So the inspiration, you were about to say, you've been eating.
After I eat this, I'm like, I'm so full. And Jonathan told me that like potatoes are one of the most filling foods that you can eat.
Yeah. They've done research on they laid out all these different foods and they measured people's hunger, a certain amount of time after eating it. And potatoes are at the very top of the list for the most satiating, for an extended period of time. So super helpful if the new year brought along a goal with trying to lose weight. Try to fill up on as many potatoes as you can. And they're just very nutritious in general, too. Tons of hydration in them.
Yeah.
The inspiration for the way that we cook them actually came from a time we went to Trader Joe's and bought a bag of pre-made potatoes. And just kind of like, they were delicious. We flipped over the bag and we
figured out
we can
what
make
seasonings were on them. Yeah.
So Blakely's going to demonstrate how we prepare these and cook them in our air fryer.
So this is obviously a small version. We wouldn't do 3 potatoes at once, but we will wash all the potatoes, chop up all the potatoes. I'll show you how I'll chop them in just a second. Put them in a baggie.
And you brought all the stuff
We'll
out
put
here.
on some salt, some garlic, and some rosemary, and some oil in the bag. Shake up the bag, and then there you go. So I like to chop them in
Hold on.
like quarters. So just like down.
Like little wedges.
Like little wedges. So every little potato becomes 4 little pieces. And then
pop them in the bag.
I put all those in the baggie after I've chopped them.
Hey, this reminds me, can we add rosemary to the grocery list? We're about out. Okay, so all 3 potatoes are
All
cut,
3 potatoes
going in the bag.
cut. So another tip we were going to talk about, I'll probably skipping ahead on this one, but instead of dumping a bunch of like the liquid oil into the bag, what you can do is you can like spray with your
Like this is avocado
oil
spray
into the
It
bag.
could
So
be
really,
olive
you
oil,
just
whatever.
want like enough for to get them sticky. Hello.
Yeah, really the only goal is get them wet so that the seasoning and the salt will stick to the potatoes.
Yeah.
And so they'll get a little bit of crisp on
So
them.
then we'll get a little bit of the
Little rosemary in
rosemary.
there, little garlic
Last
powder.
time I thought I put way too much garlic, but it turned out it was like really good
can
with a
never
little
have
extra
too much garlic.
And we really like this little salt, the sea salt,
Kosher salt. that's
kosher
not-
salt. Yeah,
Kosher salt.
I always get confused what's what.
It is confusing.
Zip up your baggie, and then you just toss them around, and then
Now we have a nice even coating of the seasoning all over the potatoes.
pop them in your air fryer.
Right, so we don't preheat our air fryer. I don't understand why you preheat an air fryer because as soon as you open the drawer, all the hot air goes out. We put them in the air fryer at 400 degrees for 10 minutes. We open the door on it. We stir them around because the ones at the bottom aren't getting as hot. We put it back in for 7 or 8 minutes, pull it out, make sure they're all golden brown, and taste test one to make sure it's not too al dente.
Yeah.
And they are delicious.
So
guys.
about 18 to 20 minutes total time.
Yes.
Like I usually go 10, check them, 8. Usually they need 1 or 2 more minutes. So it's usually about 20 minutes. But I like to get them brown and make sure, they're not like you said, not al dente, but we don't want them to like burn in there.
Right.
So 20 minutes is usually the max.
That's really noisy.
At 400, sorry. Stop playing with food.
All right, so give that one a try.
Okay.
We've got them on repeat.
Speaking of putting them in the air fryer, so we put to keep the basket clean, and you can just like almost not wash the basket, is to put down a piece of parchment or foil, or parchment paper, or those little cups that they give you down in the air fryer.
Or maybe you've like tried to cook anything on parchment paper on a baking sheet, and when you lay it out on the parchment paper, like you lay the parchment paper out on the baking sheet, it just like curls up on itself, and you're left there trying to fight it. You could be baking cookies or roasting vegetables, whatever.
This is Jonathan here. He wanted to show this trick.
This
is gonna be really loud.
Here's the parchment
I don't know
paper.
Why we're doing this.
So if you're driving and you're listening to this in the audio version, you might want to plug your ears for a second. But I'm going to take this piece of parchment paper.
I'm
just going to crumple it like a sheet of computer paper, and then I'm going to open it back up. And its desire to curl up on itself is completely
It just makes it more
gone.
manageable. So then you can just throw that in the air fryer, put your potatoes in.
Yes.
And you're good to
or a
go.
baking sheet, like for you doing cookies or whatever. It's a helpful tip.
It is.
I stole
It really
from-
is. He
stole
saw it on
from
YouTube,
somebody.
and he's just like trying to tell everybody that he knows about this
Yes,
trick.
I
So.
invented it. Send me royalties. Okay, this tip came from Haley. This is not a visual tip, but
Yeah.
I thought it was a really good idea worth mentioning. She likes to take a baking sheet with her crumpled parchment paper on top of it and kind of treat it like a one-pan meal. So she'll cut up some vegetables, some zucchini, some red onion, some squash, whatever. Put it on the baking sheet, but then also put a source of protein on the baking sheet too. So she gave the example of like a turkey sausage or something like that, or the same kind of potatoes that we just cooked right there. It's like a one-pot meal, but it's on a baking sheet. You throw it in the oven at 400 degrees, 25-ish minutes. Now, if you have something like potatoes that take a little bit longer to cook, you'd want to start those ahead of time. But basically, you're eliminating the whole like meal prep thing because you're cooking it all at once. So. Pro tip also, cook enough to where you have new leftovers for lunch the next day, or if you did it for lunch, for dinner later that day.
Yeah, she mentioned you could put like bell peppers and some red onions, some potatoes, some turkey sausage, some zucchini, and get all that on the baking sheet, shove it in the oven. I honestly never thought about doing it all at once like that, especially with something like a turkey sausage. I know you wouldn't want to do it with like chicken.
Not
raw
already
chicken
cooked chicken,
or anything like that. But yeah, it sounds like a great idea.
And if you think like, I don't want to eat plain vegetables, I'm not sure what Haley uses for seasoning, but in our experience, you could also just use that same spray the vegetables with it, and then sprinkle kosher salt and a little bit of fresh ground pepper on top of the vegetables. They turn into like candy. You're gonna love it.
Yep.
Okay, did you know that raspberries are one of the highest fiber, not only fruits, but foods that you can eat? They are a fiber hack if there ever was a hack. Why do we care about fiber? It helps improve your digestion. It helps lower cholesterol. It is insanely low. Raspberries are insanely low in calories too. So Here's a way, but some people don't like them because they're a little bit on the bitter side. So if you don't want to eat them on their own, here's a recommendation. Buy these frozen raspberries in a bag. They're way cheaper than the fresh. They last longer like this anyway. And put them in the microwave for about 30 seconds so they don't get hot, but they get soft and get a little bit gooey. And then mix them into a serving of Icelandic or Greek yogurt. You know, if you're trying to keep an eye on your calories, use a 0%, no added fat. You're going to get like 18 to 25 grams of protein. You're going to get like 7 to 10 grams of fiber. It's going to be a really filling, really high protein snack. And then once you have it all mixed together, you have them in the bowl together, like really whip it around, like make the raspberries kind of turn into mush and turn this into like a pink, almost like a ice cream parfait.
Yeah.
And the coldness of the raspberries and the coldness of the Icelandic or Greek yogurt mixed together is going to make you feel like you're really eating a dessert. But it's a very nutritious.
But just getting these, I think some people think maybe like frozen vegetables or fruits don't have the nutritional value that fresh does, but they do, correct?
It's exactly the same.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really think that like getting these, you're more likely to finish the whole serving because they don't go bad before you're ready to eat them all.
Yeah. I mean, who hasn't
and it's like, see, they're so much cheaper than buying them fresh.
For sure. Yeah. I don't mess with the fresh ones. Okay. Another one that you may have seen if you follow us on Instagram, because I've been known to post a lot of pictures of it, is making my famous trademarked protein pudding. Somewhere along the line, I got sick of drinking protein shakes. Like, I don't know what it was, like just got tired of mixing the water or the milk and the protein powder. And I don't know if I stole this idea from somebody else or I came up with it on my own, but I came up with the protein pudding idea. So let me show you.
I know who came up with it.
Who?
Austin.
Really? All right. Well, there you go. I don't think he listens to the podcast, so I'll still take the credit. All right. So basically we're going to make a protein shake, but we're only going to use a little bit of liquid. And we're going to stir it so that we turn this thing into more like a pudding or a mousse that you're going to eat with a spoon versus just have to drink a whole lot of liquid. If you're somebody who feels like a gut bomb after you drink a protein shake, this is a way to kind of get around that also because it's so much less volume to eat.
Okay. So walk me through this.
She's using a veggie-based protein powder here. So
1 scoop.
This is a little bit of an experiment. So put your serving of powder in a bowl.
So normally you do your whole serving of protein, right?
Yeah, I would use a whole scoop.
Yeah.
And then we're going to slowly add the liquid in so that we get it down to that pudding consistency that we want. We don't want it to get too runny or it's going to like,
this is a huge spoon you brought for this.
It won't even stick to the spoon. Why are you holding that spoon out there?
You put like a tablespoon in.
Yeah, I mean, this really only takes like a few tablespoons of liquid. All right, so she's stirring it up.
I think we're going to need more
you
milk
just want
than
to,
that.
You could be right, but we're going to keep stirring and make sure we don't overdo it. Because if you overdo it,
way more milk.
You get into the game of like, adding more protein and adding more liquid. You want to go slow with the liquid so you get that pudding consistency.
So we're at like 1.5 tablespoons of liquid, not even that.
Yeah, and we're not adding very many calories to this. Also, you could use a almond milk, you could use an oat milk, whatever. I can already tell we're getting there now.
Yeah.
So depending on like what protein powder you have, you might like or not like the taste of this. So if you're not loving the taste of just the pudding, you can add the raspberries to the protein pudding too.
It's not a super beautiful food to eat. Like
no.
It's pretty ugly. Like whenever he posts it in the story, I'm like, please don't ever post that again.
Okay.
It's gross looking.
This particular protein powder that Blakely has it makes it almost more like a cake batter solution. And now that this has sat here for a second, I would probably add a little bit more liquid. But the point is, you can still use the ingredients of a protein shake and make it into a pudding.
Oh, it's gonna be
you can almost feel like you're eating like a cake icing, depending on if you have like a really sweet vanilla protein powder or something.
I used to be really into this. Now that I'm remembering,
you can spread it on a rice cake. So
that's
there
pretty
you go.
Good.
Protein pudding.
If you like your protein powder, I really like this protein powder. Like it's kind of.
You gonna finish that whole thing?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, let's move on to a little tip for how to weigh foods that might stick to the utensil that you're scooping it out with. And we'll preface this by saying that if you're somebody who is in the phase of your journey where you're weighing your food, you might as well be precise about it. It's not as important with low calorie stuff like I mean, weighing exactly how many grams of cucumber you eat. But if you're eating a food that has a lot of calories in a serving, you want to be more precise so that you have more control. You don't just dilly-dally and it takes forever to get results because you're not being accurate. So when you're weighing a food that sticks to the spoon, it can be kind of confusing or tempting to not count the food that's stuck to the spoon. And when it's a food like peanut butter.
If I wanted a half serving of peanut butter in my protein pudding over here to add a little bit of flavor.
Right. So this is how you account for the entire serving when you're weighing something. So what I'm going to do is put the jar of peanut butter on the scale, and then I'm going to turn it on. So what that does is it's counting the weight of everything in here, and I'm basically going to go into the negative as I scoop out a portion. And whether it's stuck to the spoon or it's in my mouth or on a bagel or whatever,
so
it came out of there and it's going to get counted.
Let's try for a half serving. Let's try for 15 grams.
You're just going to be full after this episode. So my scale, when I turned it on, automatically went to 0. But if yours has any weight on it, just hit the tear or the 0 button, and that'll take it back down to 0. So the good thing about this is you can pick up the jar and scoop it out. So half a serving would be 16 grams. So I've took an estimate of what I think that is. That's 10. There's 14. So I'm getting there. Now 16. So
That's what you wanted, 16.
Oh yeah, there we go. Okay.
Okay.
So now everything that came out of that jar is counted in the serving. You know, if I was spreading this on a rice cake and not using this method, there might be half as much of this stuck to the spoon that I just eat, and now I just got an extra 90 calories that I wasn't, counting. So
and this matters if you're, if you're currently in the phase where you are weighing and logging and you're like frustrated, you're like, I don't know why, things aren't happening, why I think why the scale isn't moving. And it could very well be little things like this where you log, I ate a half serving of peanut butter, you spread it on with eyeballed it, or just, a lot of it sticks to the spoon, as you can tell.
So you can use this with yogurt, cottage cheese, anything that's sticky that would normally stick to your spoon. All right, that one's in the bag. Let's move on. Oh, we're going to talk about how we ripen and keep our avocados fresh.
Okay, this really works. We are able to buy like avocados when they're like kind of like the green in the green phase where they're hard. You're not going to eat them yet, and they last for like at least a week or more. Like now, the way that we're doing this method, and this came to be because when we first moved into this house, we live out in the country and we were getting some mice.
Yeah.
And they were, I was used to leaving like, my basket of fruits and vegetables and, bread or whatever, that kind of stuff you sometimes have on like the counter. Mm-hmm. It wasn't good here. So anyway, actually Jonathan's mom found this on the internet, and this is really like a, what do you call this thing? I can't remember.
It's a clay pot with a dome-shaped lid, but I can't remember what the original intent.
Yeah, I should have looked up the name. But anyway, we got this. It's really for cooking because it has a little hole. But I got it to store fruits and like vegetables. I'll keep potatoes, avocados, things that could have like a scent that could attract an animal. But whenever we started putting the avocados in here, I found that like they come to us green. We put them in here. They sit for like 3 days, and then they get really mushy, and we're ready to put them in the refrigerator, and then we can keep them for like at least like 4 or 5 more days after that. So it has really extended the life of our avocados is basically.
And I've heard other people say like putting them avocados or bananas in a paper bag does a similar thing. But if you want something a little more aesthetic,
or you can keep it.
Or we know that this method works for us.
Yeah.
So there you go. We'll put is this in our Amazon store? Did we get that on Amazon?
We did get that on Amazon. Your mom found it on Amazon. Yeah.
Okay. So there's our, like we call it our avocado cooker, because if they're not ripe, they become ripe in there. Mm-hmm. Okay. We already touched on this earlier, but we'll just mention it again. As often as you can, use spray oil versus just dumping copious amounts of oil on your food. I mean, the serving size on this says 1/4 second spray has 0 calories. First of all, when I use this like to cook eggs in the morning, I probably use like 2 seconds worth. So who knows how many calories are in that, since there's no way to calculate a
a quarter of
multiplier
a second
from zero. But we know that even though this probably not 0 calories, it's way less than putting a tablespoon of olive oil, which might have close to 100 calories.
So
on it.
really, one of the times we've used it that I feel like it saves a lot of calories is when we do vegetables on like a cookie sheet in the oven.
Yeah.
And so we'll, chop up zucchinis or whatever it is. And instead of like, we used to like drizzle the oil all over it. And that really came out to be a lot.
Or even like brushing on uses a lot more.
And so now we just like actually, which sounds weird, but we spray the vegetables on top and then you put your salt and pepper. And so you're just getting kind of like I demonstrated with the potatoes. You just really need enough for something to stick to it.
Yep. And it tastes just as good too. So,
honestly, I feel like it helps them not get soggy. Because when I've made them in the past with the dumping, they kind of get soggy. In that method, they kind of get crisp.
Not a fan of dumping. All right. We talked about salt several times in this episode. I just wanted to mention that I feel like our cooking game took a big step up when we started using kosher salt instead of table salt to season our food.
Yeah.
Kosher salt usually comes in a big cardboard box, Morton's or whatever, and then we just transfer it over to something small like this. But it really makes your food taste more like restaurant quality. People come over, stay with us, and I'll make the traditional digital barbell breakfast for them in the morning, the eggs and oatmeal. And people are skeptical about eating plain oatmeal. Like, well, what do you put in your oatmeal? Like, you add honey? Do you add sugar? Do you add berries? No, I just add kosher salt. And they're like, all right, I'll try it. And they're like, wow, this is good. Now tell me again how you do that.
Yeah.
But like so many foods, the secret to restaurant food tasting so good is that they use a lot of butter on it, but they also use enough salt on it. So if you've been using table salt and your food is like a 3 out of 10, switch over to kosher salt, and I bet you're closer to a 9 or 10 out of 10. And then Blakely is a massive fan of finishing her food with pink Himalayan salt, kind of just ground right on top.
Especially breakfast with the oatmeal eggs.
It just
makes it so good.
Yeah. So if you have food that's like, you consider it healthy, but it doesn't taste that good, try adding a little bit of pink Himalayan salt on top too. All right, we're salty. Let's move on. Let's say you're somebody who struggles to have enough protein at breakfast. Like I eat an egg and a piece of toast for breakfast, or I eat a tiny little Dannon Light and Fit yogurt that has 12 grams of protein in it for breakfast. We got to get that protein, that protein in your breakfast up to 25 plus grams. So here's a simple way to do it. Make yourself a fancy latte.
If you're drinking like a latte kind of drink this is like if you're drinking a latte or similar,
or just
a coffee with milk, but you're using like a almond milk, a soy milk, or an oat milk.
Yeah, or just,
which
just water.
Has zero protein in it.
Yes.
Not zero, but usually like 2.
Let's use a high protein, low calorie milk to boost up the amount of protein you're getting in your breakfast. If you live in Texas,
the same as Fairlife, but this is only at the Texas HEBs, but this is the same as Fairlife milk, where they've somehow boost the protein up in these milks.
Yeah, they ultra filter it to remove more of the water, which leaves more of the milk proteins in place, and that also removes most of the lactose, or actually all of the lactose in Mootopia. Maybe Fairlife too. I think remember.
It is.
Which brings the natural sugars down. So basically, you're going to make your coffee drink and add, there's 13 grams of protein in 1 cup of this, and you could easily make a 16-ounce coffee with this milk. Boom, there's 26 extra grams of protein added to your breakfast. And this skim version only has 80 calories per cup. So 160 calories for 26 grams of protein. That is really, really good.
This is blowing people's mind because we're always talking about these fancy ass coffees. Fancy coffees.
Yeah, I mean
that we shouldn't be drinking. No, I'm just kidding.
We can make our own, have more control over it.
Yeah.
If you like Fairlife products, like the macros are basically the same as this Mootopia, but they also make the Core Power shakes, which have 26 grams of protein in one and like 32 or 42 in the other. You can use that in your breakfast also, and you can add coffee to that to make yourself a fancy latte. Whatever. A lot of people like iced or whatever, but
Haley gave us a good recipe for hers that she makes. She does coffee like espresso, Fairlife milk, And then she does the sugar-free, she mixes 2 sugar-free syrups, vanilla and coconut, which I've never had a coconut. That sounds delicious.
They're doing all kinds of crazy stuff up there in Maryland, y'all. I think she says she finds that syrup online or at the smaller coffee shops if she's out and about. All right, so basically you're going to get some liquid calories through protein in your breakfast to boost things up. Okay, last one, invest yourself in a meat hammer. This is definitely in our Amazon store, but
we got this as a gift.
Yeah.
And we didn't know it existed. And it really has changed the way that we make ground meat. Like if you're going to do tacos or something like that, like make taco meat.
What you got there?
I brought in our favorite seasoning, Trader Joe's seasoning. That's this taco mix.
Be careful with this stuff.
Yeah, this stuff is very spicy. And it does not say, I think we've talked about this before, it does not say... it doesn't even look like it's a spicy package. It says nowhere that it's spicy. It is extremely spicy. So
this is like 5 pounds worth of meat. You could season 5 pounds of meat with this tiny little pack of Trader Joe's taco seasoning. So like tread lightly the first time you make it, or else your ears might be ringing.
So your whatever kind of meat you're going to put in your pan, a little bit of this on top, and then you work it with this thing.
If you're just listening, we have this thing. It's a plastic spade basically with a bunch of blades on it, and you use it to chop your ground meat as you're browning it, and it breaks it up into small pieces.
But it really does make it into it feels more like what you get in a taco from a restaurant.
Right.
Like the chop of the meat is what I'm trying to say.
And it helps it cook faster too, because you're breaking down the pieces a little bit quicker. Whew. I'm hungry after talking about all that.
I got some
food
protein
stuff.
pudding here I'm about to eat. Maybe some peanut butter.
Pass me that peanut butter.
You want a bell pepper?
All right, guys. These were just things that we thought of off the top of their head. We'll probably think of more and do another episode like this in the future if you guys like it. If you like it and you're watching this on YouTube, leave us a comment or hit the thumbs up button, and we'll know that you want to see more of this stuff. Don't forget that you still can take advantage of the free week of training. Just go to digitalbarbell.com/free week. And we will catch you guys next week. Take care.
Buttons, that was adorable.